A very good morning to you all. Today the topic is hepatitis B virus and co-infection with various other viruses, and what are the diagnostic challenges which we face. So when we talk about any co-infection, so as the word indicates, co-infection when there is a presence of simultaneously one or the two virus in a same host. Now this co-infection can also be in the form of super-infection, means the person might be infected with another virus. He is a non-chronic patient. In addition to it, another virus, he got infected with another new virus, that is a super-infection. As a thumb rule, whenever these two viruses infections occurs in a same host, there is always a competition between them, and one of the virus always try to dominate over the other virus. So I will be discussing this co-infection, that is hepatitis B and hepatitis D virus, hepatitis B and HCV, hepatitis B and HIV. Now coming to hepatitis B and HDV co-infection, we all know that hepatitis D virus is a deficient virus and it requires hepatitis B virus for causing the infection. When we talk about the global prevalence of this HDV infection among HPS positive subjects, it ranges from 4.5% to 10.6%. And when we talk about specifically from India, this prevalence may vary as high as 62.5% to as low as 0%. Now, what happens if the person is having HDV, HBV along with that HIV co-infection, and that may varies from 14.5% to 22%. So what happens whenever there is a hepatitis B and D co-infection? There can be the two scenarios. Number one, as I told earlier, co-infection, that is both the viruses enters in the same host at the same time, and this is the situation where 90% of the patients do recover, and the co-infection accounts for approximately 5 to 10% of the total co-infections. Now the super-infection, which is the most common and the most dangerous, and in this what happens is the person is already a known chronic hepatitis B patient on which super-added HDV infection occurs. And this, if this happens, then majority of the patients, approximately 90% of the patients, land up into the chronic hepatitis B, leading to the cirrhosis. So when the patient comes to it, depending upon the biological markers which we see, whenever the patient is having the co-infection, means both the virus entering at the same time. So in that case, what we'll find the markers of hepatitis B, that is, we will see HBsAg, we might see HB antigen, HBV DNA will be there. Along with that, core IgM antibodies will be there. And for HDV infection, what we can find is, we can find HDV antigen, IgM antibodies to HDV, or IgG antibodies to HDV, and HDV RNA. But what happens in the case of superinfection? In the case of the superinfection, the patient will be a chronic hepatitis B patient, which we can diagnose with the presence of HBsAg. Co-total antibodies, DNA may or may not fluctuate, there will be fluctuation. But, from the HDV point of view, we will get antigen, antibodies, RNA also. But the basic difference between co-infection and superinfection is the absence of co-total IgM antibodies in the case of superinfection. So what are the challenges which we face? Number one, the prevalence of HDV infection. There are the various studies and which recommends, there are the guidelines which recommends either HDV testing should be offered to all the HBsAg positive patients like Parcel and EASL, and there are certain guidelines which offers the HDV testing only in the specific group of the population like IV drug abusers, patients living with HIV, men having sex with men, or the patients who are having low HPV viral load or low HPV markers with the flared up AST ALT level. When we talk about India or any Asian African countries, there is a scarcity of the data in the sense that studies are there which have determined the prevalence of HDV infection based on the serology, that is total antibodies to HDV. But what is the prevalence, or what is the prevalence of active HDV infection, that is replicated, whether this HDV infection is in the replicated form or not, it is still lacking. And it is found that why it is important, because like in the European studies, it is found that though anti-HDV antibodies might be present, but the active HDV replication is found only as a subject of the population. And till date, and when we talk about the India, the seroprevalence of HDV infection has shown a decreasing trend. The seroprevalence was found as high as 60 to 80%, and now it has been decreased to 0%. This is might because of the high socioeconomic status as well as the best coverage of hepatitis B vaccination. In India, the studies determining the HDV prevalence based on the HDV RNA activity. Only 2 studies are there. One is from SGPGI, the other study is from our institute, where we have tried to look the prevalence of HDV infection among 2 groups of the population. Those group A, which includes hepatitis B infected patients, which are positive for both HBsAg antigen and co-total antibodies. The other group, which includes the patients who are negative for HBsAg antibody but positive only for co-total, that is the patients who had a prior exposure to hepatitis B infection. And in this study, we determine HDV, IgM, IgG as well as HDV RNA. We found HDV infection only in group A, that is HBsAg positive patient. 1 case was found and the overall prevalence was found to be less than 1%, that is 0.78% in our study. Now coming to virus hepatitis B and C. When we talk about the co-infection of these 2 viruses, the prevalence may vary from 1 to 15%. However, the prevalence also is affected by the geographical location and the risk group population. In India, this HPV and HCV co-infection rate varies from 1 to 2%. When we talk about B and C, in this, the hepatitis B virus and C virus is the one which generally dominates over the hepatitis B, and superinfection is much more common when we talk in this. Rather than co-infection, superinfection is much more common in hepatitis B and C infected patients. Now, as I told you, one virus may interfere with the replication of the other virus. Various in vitro studies have been conducted, and they found that in vitro, those 2 viruses do not inhibit the replication of each other. But however, when we see various clinical studies, there is a viral interference, means HCV always dominates over HPV. The reason might, the exact pathogenesis is still not known, but various proposed mechanisms has been made, postulated. So number 1 is, we all know the HPV polymerase is required for the transcription of CCC DNA to the RNA, which in turn leads to production of various proteins. What happens? HPC core antigen forms a complex with HPV polymerase, which in turn inhibits the further transcription activity. The second proposed mechanism is the role of some microRNA. MicroRNA 122, which tends to also inhibit the transcription of hepatitis B, and hence it downregulates the replication of hepatitis B. The third postulate is the presence of hepatitis C infection leads to the production of interferon. Now, this interferon has got a negative impact on the formation of virions, their assembly, and hence decreasing the release of and hence suppressing the hepatitis B infection. Now, when we talk about the serological markers, hepatitis B and C serological markers may have 4 different types of pattern. Co-dominance means both hepatitis B and C are co-dominating, they are present, characterized by the presence of both HCV RNA antibodies as well as HBsAg antigen and HPV DNA. Majority of the cases of hepatitis B and C co-infection are HCV dominant, means HCV virus always dominates over the HPV infection. Now, when there is a co-infection, majority of the patients might have occult hepatitis B, means they will not be having the HBsAg antigen will not be detected, but some amount of the replication competent DNA is present in the liver and or in the blood. And overt and very few percentage of the co-infection with HCV has a overt hepatitis B. Very less cases, hepatitis B is the dominant over the hepatitis C. And rather replicated, that is a condition where the serological markers are present, but the replication activity of both the hepatitis B and C viruses absent. Only 2 studies have conducted which have shown what was the percentage of these serological patterns in hepatitis B and C infected patients. And they have found that 18% of them are codominant, with 47% of the patients cases where the hepatitis C is always dominant over the hepatitis B. But the studies have also shown that the first study has shown that one study was conducted in a first baseline samples, and they have characterized them into the 4 patterns. The other study, they have followed the patients for 1 year. They have repeated the serological testing every 2 months, and then what they found is, yes, when we characterize these patients into the different patterns, the fluctuation in the viremia or the dominance of the virus may be seen in approximately 31% of the cases. Another challenge which we face is isolated anticore antibodies, means only the presence of anticore total antibodies will be there with the absence of hepatitis B antigen. Now, when we talk about this isolated prevalence in the case of co-infection, which may be as high as 19% to 70%, whenever we found such cases, first of all, we should always rule out the false positive. Whether it is a false positive, it should always be reconfirmed with a secondary assay or with a second assay to rule out the false positivity. Or isolated core antibodies can also be found along with the cases of occult hepatitis B. The other challenge which we face in co-infection is the presence of occult hepatitis B. The prevalence of occult hepatitis B may vary from 1% to as high as 70% depending upon the risk factors. When we talk about HPV and HIV co-infections, it varies from 12% to 45%, but the studies say that this is an underestimation. The true prevalence of occult hepatitis B in the co-infection is always underestimated because of the lack in the diagnostic potential. Now, when we talk about occult hepatitis B, we say there is an absence of hepatitis B antigen not detected by the various available assays. So, in order to overcome this shortcoming, we should always use some assays which have a very low limit of detection. The low limit of detection in the various assays ranges from 0.05 IU per ml. In our lab, we are using. However, various new assays like HBsAg Next or Lumiplex assays are available, where the lower limit of detection has been reduced to even 0.005 IU per ml. Third thing, we should always use the assay which is able to detect the various mutations which can occur in the S antigen, which may lead to the escape variants. Now, another issue which we face is the estimation of HPV DNA. Nowadays, highly sensitive assays are used for the estimation of DNA, with a lower limit of detection ranges from less than 20%. And whenever we are using such assays for the diagnosis, we should assure that these assays show the similar performance in all the genotypes as well as the subtypes. As in the case of occult hepatitis, the viral load in the serum is less than 200, so there is a fluctuating HPV DNA. So we can also take the speed samples at the multiple time point, as well as a sufficient amount of the blood sample should always be there for the detection. Third is the confirmatory diagnosis of occult hepatitis B is the presence of the DNA in the liver tissue. Being liver and taking liver tissue is an invasive procedure. However, even then, if we take the liver specimens for biopsy for the detection, we lack the various standardized and validated methods for the estimation of the CCC DNA. So now coming to another virus, hepatitis B and HIV co-infection. When we talk about the global prevalence, it may vary from 17 to 14%. However, again, the prevalence varies depending upon the geographical location as well as the high-risk population. And we found that 71% of the co-infection of HIV and HPV resides in the sub-Saharan countries. And India, the studies have shown the prevalence which may vary from 2 to 14%. So we all know whenever there is a co-infection with the HIV has an effect on hepatitis B virus. There is more chances of towards chronicity. There is less chances of the seroconversion, more chances of fibrosis, cirrhosis, hepatocellular carcinoma. On the other hand, HIV tends to, whenever HPV virus also has an effect on HIV virus, there is a rapid progression to AIDS disease, there is a rapid iteration of the CD4 T cells. So what happens when these two, both viruses are present, and what there is effect on the liver? First thing is the HIV virus. HIV is the virus which can affect the hepatocytes, hepatic stellate cell as well as the Kupffer cells, whereas the hepatitis B virus infects the hepatocytes. The another mechanism, whenever there is HIV infection, there is a decreased CD4 count, as a result of which there is a increased microbial translocation, gut microbial translocation. There is an increased formation of lipopolysaccharides. Now these lipopolysaccharides in turn leads to the release of the various pro-inflammatory cytokines, resulting in the destruction of the liver. Additionally, whenever there is hepatitis, in the case of hepatitis B also, various chemokines 10, chemokine 16 is also released, which in turn leads to the increased fibrosis and inflammatory processes. Now, what the diagnostic challenge we face? The most commonly, especially in the remote limiting settings, the first test which we offered for the screening is HbA1c antigen using RDTs. Though the various commercial assays claim the sensitivity ranges from more than 99% with a specificity of almost 100%, but it has been found that the sensitivity of HbA1c RDT in HIV infected patients is low, which ranges from 70% to only 77%. And another test which we use is an enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay, which has shown a better sensitivity as well as a specificity for the diagnosis in the co-infected patients as compared to the RDT. Now again, similar to that of HPV and HCV co-infection, we can face the challenge of isolated core antibodies, which can be again, the prevalence can be as high as 7 to 40% in such cases, as well as occult hepatitis B. This again, the prevalence of occult hepatitis B in HPV and HIV is only 10 to 45%, which is again underestimated. The true incidence is still not known because of the lack of the various diagnostic modalities. So, in conclusion, I want to say first thing in a diagnosis is we have to intensify the screening. Screening should be offered to all the patients who had been infected with hepatitis B, C and HIV. We should always use a sensitive assay which is able to detect even the smallest amount of with the lowest limit of the detection, and we should use the assays. We should use the assays which is where we know what are the targets. If any kind of the mutation in the S gene is there, suppose, they should be able to detect. And we should always rule out any possibility of the false positive result after repeating any sample for the confirmation.